Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Leah Honiball. Yes, like honey. I've actually been asked before if that's my Google name, which I didn't know was a thing, but I just want to clarify Honiball is my real last name. So welcome back. In this video, I'm going to dissect from start to finish about everything that would have contributed to perhaps my PCOS, definitely my acne journey, my hormonal imbalances, my sort of disordered type eating. And so in this one, I'm going to dissect the very first piece. So that ranges from about 2007 to 2009, even 2012, because that was from about grade 4 to grade 8. So from elementary school to middle school, because in high school things changed a little bit. But I'm going to touch upon the very first piece of the puzzle in this video, which was my eating. And of course, I didn't realize it at the time. But if you're struggling with acne, if you have PCOS, this could be related. And I remember doing research on the relationship between food and disordered eating. I just want to clarify that I'm using the term disordered eating not as eating disorder, because I was never officially diagnosed with an eating disorder, although I'm very open with how my eating habits were. I'm calling it disordered eating because that kind of covers any type of eating that seemed unusual. And I want to preface this by saying anything that I share in this video, I'm not an expert, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not a professional. This is all from my own personal experience with food, how I figured out that contributed to my acne journey and my PCOS, how I overcame it. So please don't take any of this as the truth, the only truth. It's my experience, hoping to inspire and enlighten you with your experience. But definitely see a doctor if you are deeply struggling with any type of eating issue. For sure, that's just first and foremost, because I originally did that as well. So back to what I wanted to talk about. So at the time, as I said in grade 4, that was sort of the first time something came up with my skin. And at the time, I had a very stressful teacher, and a lot of kids in my class were actually, if they're watching this today, they know who I'm talking about. They were experiencing very obvious symptoms of stress. And of course, being so young in grade 4, you don't really know, oh, this is anxiety and this is a manifestation of my brain being under a lot of stress. But some kids actually started to, get like night sweats and nightmares and things like that, because this teacher was just very stressful. And I guess part of my brain kind of blocked it out, but she just was very rigid in the classroom. We couldn't really have fun. Things were always rules and strict. We had to write with rulers on lined paper, like just extreme, as I see now, probably obsessive-compulsive behaviors. But anyway, very stressful. So I decided to manifest that control that I was lacking in the classroom, because she was so controlling, into my eating. And at the same time, my whole family's always been pretty healthy, really into healthy eating and exercise. And at the same time, my dad was working out a lot. He was trying to see how shredded he could get. And obviously he was much older, so his hormones were well balanced. He was in a good position to do this. Which I'm sure a lot of you can relate, when you see someone else, whether it's on Instagram or a parent or a friend, and you see them getting really shredded, or it's someone you look up to, you're like, oh, I want to do that too. Without always thinking, maybe that's not right for me right now. So needless to say, I sort of mimicked a little bit of my dad's behaviors, plus I was under a lot of stress with my teacher, so I started to be very controlling with my eating. Now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the term orthorexia. I learned about it much later, and it's a very new term in the DMS, the Diagnostic and Statistics, DSM, Diagnostic and Statistics Manual that psychologists use for diagnoses. But anywho, it's a fairly new term, and it basically just means extreme control over what you're putting into your body. So it's not binge eating, it's not anorexia, it's not bulimia, it's just you're very strict about what you put into your body. And looking back, that's definitely what I had. So at that time, if you're kind of seeing some of these behaviors in yourself, this could be enlightening to you. But basically at that time, I was 9 years old, and I wasn't eating any juice, any bread, any added sugars, any dairy, very little fruit. I really just ate fruit, vegetables, and lean proteins. And even then, and I feel very weird saying these behaviors now because looking back, I don't even recognize who that person was. But I would, cook chicken breast and I would rinse that chicken underwater because I was afraid there was fat on it. Or I would, if my mom was cooking something and it was cooked with butter, I would, make sure to cook mine separately. I wouldn't add any healthy fats to anything, which if you know about hormones are basically made from fat. So eating healthy fats is so critical to healthy hormones, which equate to healthy skin, mood, sleep, everything. So I was just very unhealthy. And at the same time, I was doing these behaviors. I also had some obsessive-compulsive behaviors, which again, is never formally diagnosed, but I'll be open about it. I would make a smoothie in the morning and I would walk around my island kitchen 6 times before I went to press start on the blender. Or I would open the drawer 5 times before I got my spoon. I would then lift up the spoon 3 times before I actually took it out of the drawer, would twist a cap on my flaxseed, my ground flax meal 6 times, say, before I actually took any out. So as you can imagine, that repetition was very extreme, and that was just me making breakfast. I did all that. So taken, I exhibited that kind of repetitive behavior in my eating, in my everyday actions. So while brushing my teeth, while getting ready for bed, walking to school, getting in the car, I had to open the car door. I couldn't let someone else do it. And the reason I'm being open about these things now is because I know anxiety can manifest in many different ways for different people, and a lot of people say suffer from anxiety, and it's so great to talk about it. But I just wanted to not only talk about it but quantify my experience with it, and even qualify it too with narrative descriptions of how my anxiety manifested in my life, because it was very real for me and it was very stressful. And I want you to know that if you have any of those behaviors now, A, you can overcome them. Please note that you can. And B, I can't say that it's normal because it's not healthy to be like that. Sometimes you can't help it. But a lot of people go through these things, and it's just part of life. It's part of our experiences and how we react to stress. And so I'm just being open about it because here I am today, and I can imagine, and I'm not saying, oh wow, amazing, I got it overall. Yes, my OCDs comes out a little bit now. It's more with overthinking, not so much physical actions. But I just wanted to be open and honest about it because, looking back, I feel really like weird that I used to behave that way, but it was part of me and it was part of who I am. So that's what makes me all that much stronger and passionate about healthy living and fitness and food today. So anyway, yeah, I used to do that kind of thing, and I could make a whole video about those behaviors, but that's not the point. The point is, I was just not living a healthy lifestyle yet. I was really into cooking and healthy eating, and so I think exhibiting those behaviors at such a young age are what set me up, unfortunately, for hormonal imbalances later on, aka my PCOS. So unfortunately, and I did research much later, but I remember finding a paper, I'll see if I can find it and link it down below, but by Australian doctors, and they found a link between disordered eating and PCOS later in life. So I think that's kind of what happened to me. And that sort of covers the first part of the timeline of where I think I planted the seed for my acne. And the reason I'm sharing it is because if you had a similar experience, it's really important to backtrack and go see where it could have started in order to rectify the problem that you're seeing today. So if you're having skin issues or period issues or hormonal imbalances, if you rewind and sort of think back of these events in your life, whether you're currently experiencing them or not, it will give you indication into how to best approach it now. So I'm sharing it with you to inspire you to sort of think retrospectively and see maybe where is it coming from, because I'm all about getting to the root cause of the issue and approaching it holistically that way. So that's why I wanted to share it. And I'm going to conclude this video. If you have any questions, please let me know, because I'm very open about this. But I wanted to conclude by saying how I got over it, because some of you might wonder how I stopped doing that, because it just seems like a totally different person now that I think about it. And it manifested, like I said, in so many ways. Even with germs and hand washings, I didn't want to touch anything, and my hands would crack and bleed. I was washing them so much. So there's just so much into it that I could talk about. But how I got over it was that, and I'm not saying again it's the right way, please consult someone, a doctor, or a health practitioner that could help you if you are suffering from these issues, because I did talk to my doctor about it, and she initially recommended a psychologist or therapy, and I didn't really want to go, I guess at the time, because I didn't want to feel like I had a problem. So I was kind of avoiding that, I guess, but I'm pretty determined. So what I decided to do, because I was so passionate about healthy living, and I said, I kind of had a reality check, and I don't know how this feeling came upon me, but I just said to myself, I love healthy living and eating so much, and here I am just not being my healthiest, best self. And I understand that not everyone can reflect on themselves that way. Like I said, that's why you should speak to someone if you're suffering from these issues. But it's just to try and grow self-aware and realize, okay, here's what I'm doing, and here what my goals are. And I knew I wanted to be a representation of health for myself and for my friends and those around me, and I wasn't living it. It was almost like I was secretly having these unhealthy OCD behaviors and then portraying something completely different. And so it was almost like a type of cognitive dissonance. These two ideas that I had in my mind weren't aligning, and I knew I needed to align them. So what I essentially started to do was, as the years passed, and I kind of started to realize this was 9 when this all started. So when I was 11, 12, 13, I really pushed to seek discomfort. And there's an amazing channel on YouTube called Yes Theory. And their motto is seek discomfort. And I didn't know them at the time, but essentially what I tried to do when overcoming my disordered eating, or orthorexia as I probably imagine it was now, I sought mental discomfort with my eating. So what I started to do to overcome such behaviors with my exercise, my eating, because they manifested to all areas of my life. And as humans are creatures of habit, we like routine, we like when things are the same. I purposefully disrupted my routine. And I remember, because it was quite momentous for me, which sounds silly to say now, but it really was at the time, I chose a cupcake. And nowadays, you know, if there was a birthday or something and there were cupcakes, of course I wouldn't think twice about having one, but it took a lot of mental thought work to get over this. But I chose a cupcake, and I said to myself, okay, because I used to avoid cupcakes and sweets like that, like the plague. Like I just didn't want to come near it. So I remember choosing a cupcake, and it was chocolate, because chocolate's my favorite. And I said, okay, 2 weekends from now, I'm going to eat this, and I'm going to be okay with it. And I said, I'm just going to start with half, because that's what mentally I felt comfortable with. I said, okay, I'm just going to start with half, and I'm going to be okay with it. I remember a friend inviting me to her cottage, and along with all these OCD behaviors and disordered eating behaviors, I would avoid going out to restaurants, and I avoid birthday parties and invitations that friends would extend to me. Like I became almost antisocial, because I just didn't want to go to these events because of the anxiety that would come along with having to avoid food. Like I would go sit at someone's house for birthday and just not eat anything, which was unhealthy, and it wasn't enjoyable, because so much of food is social, right? But anyway, she invited me to her cottage, and I said to myself, like, I can't keep doing this. And so I said, I'm going to go to her cottage. And I drove all the way to this bakery with my parents, and we got these cupcakes for me to bring to her cottage. And I prepared myself, like I really kid you not, for probably a week or a week and a half. And I reminded myself every day, okay, you're going to be eating this cupcake, and it's going to be okay. You're not going to change. Your body's not going to change. Your friends aren't going to change. Like my concern was that I think I had to do all these repetitive behaviors to look the way I wanted to look and stay thin, I guess, which is really sad to think that that's how I guess felt when I was so young, like 11 and 10 and stuff. But it is a reality living in the very social media oriented world we live in. But anyway, so I prepared myself for a week to eat this cupcake, and then when it happened, it was almost like a relief. I ate it, and I ate half of it, and I enjoyed it, and I didn't think too hard about it, and I said, and I'm fine. I don't look any different. I am just the same person. I look just the same. And it's not to reduce someone to their appearance, because people are so much more than that. But I I slowly started to get over it, and it wasn't just that one time. That was just the first time that I remember really pushing myself into an uncomfortable position. And I just kept pushing myself in these uncomfortable positions. And over time, it became habit not to feel anxiety when eating something that I didn't consider healthy. And I slowly became a lot healthier and developed a much healthier relationship with food. So I'm telling you this not because it's the only solution. Like I said, talk to your doctor if you're suffering from some of these behaviors. But definitely look at what you're doing, and if it's mild, which it eventually became for me, it got better and better. I became more and more flexible. I just continuously created uncomfortable, not habitual patterns for myself. So if I saw that I was doing a walk around the block, for example, every day, I would purposefully one day force myself not to do it so that I wouldn't start to associate meaning with that behavior, meaning like I will look a certain way if I do this every day, which was probably anxiety talking as well. But I just started to break that pattern and change it up all the time to avoid setting any type of conditional thinking. If this happens, then this will, so that's what I did, and I did it over time, and it took a while, and people would still tell me I was inflexible, but I knew myself that I was getting so much better. So that's what I ended up doing, and then over time it just stopped being a problem. And I'm so proud to say today that I don't exhibit any of those behaviors. Like I said, my OCD comes out a little bit with my thinking or my note taking with school. I get pretty particular about that, but then again, I'll stop myself and I'll say, you know what, Leah, your notes don't need to be written in all a certain color or perfectly written for you to remember the information. So just little things like that, I still keep myself in check. So it's just about holding yourself accountable, reflecting on your behaviors, and seeing where you can improve to align with the person you want to be, and seeking help if that is needed. Fortunately, I didn't have to. I did that myself, but it's no problem at all if you do need help getting to that point as well. So I hope this video was maybe a little bit inspiring for those of you if you do have some of these behaviors, or at least a little bit helpful and enlightening maybe the next steps to take. Not that it's the only right way, but just as a suggestion with my experience. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you'd like to see anything else on this topic, please let me know, because I'm so open about it and would share anything that you want to know. Again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications, and I will see you in my next video.